And children, particularly where there's displacement, may become desperate and vulnerable to exploitation, human trafficking as well. According to research, increases when natural catastrophes occur when people are displaced. It's therefore important that these factors of women and children, and particularly those in rural areas, are given specific attention when it comes to immediate humanitarian relief and ensuring that their basic needs are met. Now, Deputy Minister of Public Service Administration, Dr. Chana Pilane-Majake, will hand over school shoes to destitute learners and affected families ravaged by floods in Ntuzuma and Umlazi. She joins me now to have this discussion further. Deputy Minister, thank you so much for your time and thank you for joining us. I think let's start with you perhaps just talking us through the drive that your department has initiated, visiting school children and those who have been left destitute as a result of these floods.
Good morning, Ntokozo. Good morning to the viewers. Ntokozo, you would actually remember that the President of the Republic of South Africa has declared a national state of disaster in response to the floods which have wreaked havoc in KwaZulu-Natal and parts of Eastern Cape, leaving 400 people dead and 60 missing. And also we've actually noted the kind of damage to property and infrastructure. We wish to actually begin by really conveying condolences to the people of KwaZulu-Natal for the tragic loss. And the President has further called for a descent to KwaZulu-Natal to deal with the aftermath of this devastation. And this is why, therefore, I personally will actually also be descending to KwaZulu-Natal. And the Department of Public Service and Administration will participate in this effort of reconstructing the lives of so many adversely affected by this devastation, this catastrophe, emotionally and materially. And the department is an anchor department in terms of public service delivery, based on norms and standards for service delivery. It is in our interest, therefore, to have first-hand experience of what has happened on the ground to respond to it accordingly now, or using the experiences that we'll actually have for us to actually continue to help develop a capable state. So basically, this is why we're actually descending to KwaZulu-Natal, and our priority will be on schools, but we will also visit Tusong Service Center, which is a one-stop service center, because our interest is really looking at the services in a manner in which they are in the position to respond to the needs of the people on the ground. And that's the reason why we're going to be visiting KwaZulu-Natal. And indeed, introduction, we've actually mentioned the fact that we're going to actually also be giving out school shoes and clothing because of the fact that we have realized that through floods, people have actually lost their personal belongings, and the focus will be on children. What difference can we actually make in the lives of those children, noting the fact that normally when there is adversity and devastation, it's mostly women and children that actually get affected.
I mean, Deputy Minister, you've rightfully mentioned that when we do face calamities and disasters of this nature, it is women, children and the elderly, the most vulnerable groups in our society, who are exposed really to these elements. Elements such as human trafficking, elements such as abuse, because of how desperate these situations usually are. How is the department prioritizing these groups? I mean, you've mentioned visiting school children, but women and the elderly are just as vulnerable as well. How can we best prioritize them and their safety during this time?
Indeed, Ntokozo, there are mandates across government for various government departments, and we know we've also have a ministry that is directly responsible for issues of women, children, and people with youth and people with disabilities. So basically, all the departments have actually descended into KwaZulu-Natal. All the departments, each and every department really focusing on its mandate. Us, as the Department of Public Service and Administration, we look at it from the perspective of our own mandate, which is basically the policy that actually help to implement all these services in an effective and efficient way, in a way that will actually help us to really manage to appropriately respond to this devastating situation that the people of KwaZulu-Natal are actually experiencing now.
Talking about your ministry's mandate, the residents of KZN undoubtedly are at present, in need of basic services. I mean, we've already seen the water rationing that's happening in a lot of the major districts and municipalities there. What's the directive from your department in terms of ensuring that residents in KZN are, in fact, having their basic needs met by public servants?
Basically, our mandate is a mandate that is about building a capable state based on the norms and standards, which will actually have in it ethical issues that would actually relate to how we actually also spend government resources. But our approach also is based on the Batupili principle that's really focusing much more on people first kind of service. So whatever happens in KwaZulu-Natal, at the end of the day, we want to be sure that it will be the people on the ground that will actually manage to get whatever services have been arranged in an effective and efficient way, in a way that will be sensitive about utilizing the resources for the intention it was actually meant for, and in a way that will actually help these resources to manage to address those basic needs. So basically, Batupili principles is about really taking into consideration the fact that courtesy comes first. When you deal with people, there must be suitable arrangement and infrastructure so that people can manage to access services easily. Information must be available to the public in a way that the public knows where to go, how to actually manage to get that, whatever services have actually been made available. And of course, I'm sure even the media would actually want to have arrangements and provisions that have actually been put in place to be done in an open and transparent manner. All these that I'm actually mentioning continue to be what is enshrined in the Batupili principle, ourselves being in the position to address timelessly whatever complaints that will actually come forward so that we can be in the position to respond accordingly. So basically, that's what our mandate is all about, just in general, across the board, across government, looking at how we as government actually manage to provide services to South Africans in a way that always reminds us that we are here ready to serve South Africans. And this is what we are doing. And this is why all of us are descending into KwaZulu-Natal to really respond to this catastrophe that the people of KwaZulu-Natal have actually experienced. Can you imagine there are families where people are actually losing 7, 10 people at a time? It's really devastating. We're looking at what happened to business, to Toyota, to Mondi. All of that is actually what we are concerned about. And we know as South Africans, we will be in the position to fight this as a country, as a nation, as a people that are always resilient. And at the same time, I think we need to pray about it.
Deputy Minister, I wonder if you have any concerns, safety concerns at least, for public servants who are in the cold face of this disaster. And I ask off the back of reports that we've received of a senior municipal employee who was in fact shot dead outside of a water depot, and we know that she was in fact charged with water rationing in that particular area. I mean, these are individuals who, as you've said, are responding to the needs that KZN residents have right now, but there does seem to be some sort of a safety concern as well, given the level of desperation that there is in that province. As a department, as a ministry, how are you responding to this?
Life is reciprocal. If I respect you, you have to respect me. If I care for you, you also have to care for me. I have just articulated what Batupili principle is all about, which actually binds public servants as they deal with public to know how to handle the public in a way sensitive enough for them to actually not to have their rights violated. Similarly, with public servants, when they deal with communities, we expect communities to have that sensitivity about the rights of public servants. And I must actually send my condolences to the family of the deceased to say this is not what is supposed to happen, especially at a time like this when all South Africans are trying to put their heads together to see what is it that we can actually do to try and deal with the situation in KwaZulu-Natal. It is actually happening at a very wrong time, and it's really regrettable. But we want to urge communities to actually also be the one that protects public servants when they come into their communities to come and offer services. Because this is not the first time that such things are actually happening to public servants. We have been concerned about emergency services that would actually be attacked when they go into communities. But the message that I'm actually sending this morning is that it is also the responsibility of communities to say no to it. We need to together build this country.
Well, Dr. Pilane-Majake, thank you so much for your time, and thank you so much for joining us for this important conversation. That was Deputy Minister in the Office of the Public Service Administration, Dr. Chana Pilane-Majake, joining us for that conversation. Up next